from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Waiting on new condition reports for Plant 17, plus allegations of bribery and political favors from the world's largest meat packer. In agribusiness, could the acreage mix be changing?
I think we're going to stick to corn as much as possible, but I think we're going to have to see some more bean acreage.
Machinery Pete shows us what's hot at farm auctions lately and fulfilling a lifelong dream after moving a world away. We're in the Lone Star State today on In the Country.
Agday, brought to you by the dependable, longest-lasting Chevy Silverado.
Good morning, I'm Clint Griffiths. Delayed by the Memorial Day holiday, today we'll get our first look at the condition of this season's corn crop, and if comments on social media are any indication, it won't look good in the Corn Belt. Farmer Brian Petty of Alexandria, Indiana, tweeted this footage showing the sloppy mess in his Central State fields. Brian says he planted this field a week ago and received heavy rains just 2 days later. And David Chatterton posting this photo showing the ponding in fields east of Decatur, Illinois. He says more planning for producers there. Illinois' new state slogan should become Land of 10,000 Ponds. Now, during our I-80 planning tour, we were hard-pressed to find farmers who were actually planting, and for many that did get some seed in the ground, they're now looking at the possibility of replanting following weeks of wet and cold weather. Farm Journal field agronomist Ken Ferry, who is based near Bloomington, Illinois, says during his 30 years of agronomy, this is the most replant he's seen across Illinois, especially in the middle two-thirds of the state. But with June just 2 days away, Midwest farmers are facing the decision of switching from corn to soybeans. Ted Seifert of Zaner Ag Hedge telling Agday the dilemma of replanting may not show up in the commodity markets yet this spring.
Let's look at Argentina this last year. We had a ton of flooding down in Argentina. The USDA started at a 57 million metric ton soybean crop. The trade brought that number down all the way down to 51, 52 million. And where did we end up? 57 million. So I think the moral of the story is for whatever's not flooded out, the yield potential is still very much there.
Seifert still expects to see some type of rally this year, but says that may come when farmers least expect it. Canada is having problems with wet fields as well. Agronomy.com reporting that 1.5 million acres in the grain-growing province of Saskatchewan will go unplanted this season. That's about 5% of the total crop acreage. While commodity prices have remained generally stagnant, strong yields last year helped support farmers' bottom line. That's the opinion of economists last week during the Senate Ag Committee hearing on the farm economy. Economist Nathan Kaufman from Kansas City Federal Reserve says the degree of financial stress varies by region. The western part of his district, which is heavy in livestock production, had a more difficult time with loan repayment than the grain-intensive states to the east.
Financial stress in the farm sector has increased more significantly in regions where cropland is generally less productive and in regions concentrated in markets that have been particularly weak, such as cattle and wheat, for example. In other areas, strong crop yields last fall resulted in cash flows that were better than expected, and financial conditions have been more stable recently in those regions.
Kaufman expects downward trends to continue in the near term as global supplies are likely to continue to weigh on grain prices and profit margins. Just before the holiday weekend, USDA releasing its latest cattle on feed numbers. As of May 1st, there were 11 million head in the nation's largest feedlots. That's up 2% compared to last year. Placements were up 11% year over year, which is the biggest total for an April in the last 14 years and higher than the trade expected. That's pressuring markets lower to end last week. Marketings of fed cattle, well, they rose 3%. Bribery, kickbacks, and collusion all spelled out in recent revelations from JBS leadership in Brazil. Now, according to Bloomberg, videotaped testimony from the Batista brothers, owners of global meatpacking powerhouse JBS, lay out how the company's $20 billion acquisition spree over the past 10 years was helped by millions of dollars in bribes and contributions to politicians in Brazil. The 7-hour testimony and private documents allegedly implicate more than 1,800 politicians, including a reported audio recording of President Michael Temer endorsing hush money payments to former lawmakers. Timmer denies those allegations. Now, according to the testimony, the State Development Bank played a crucial role in JBS expansion in the U.S., injecting more than $3 billion in capital for acquisition of Swift & Company in 2007, the beef-producing units of Smithfield Foods in 2008, and chicken producer Pilgrim's Pride in 2009. In a recent letter, one of the Batista brothers say they were wrong to do what they did and apologize, saying, "Well, we have explanations for what we did. We have no justification," adding that in other countries outside Brazil, we were able to expand our business without violating ethical values. Government weather forecasters are releasing their predictions for 2017 in the hurricane season. They say there's a 70% chance of seeing between 11 and 17 named tropical storms in the Atlantic this season. NOAA's Climate Prediction Center says this would be more storms than normal. That includes 5 to 9 hurricanes, including 2 to 4 major ones with winds of at least 111 miles per hour. Cindy Clausen filling in for Mike Hoffman again this morning. She has today's crop comments. Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning, Clinton. Plant 17 has turned into Replant 17 for many farmers like Mark Isbell of Little Rock, Arkansas. He's been back in the fields trying to get them back in shape after heavy rains and flooding in early May. On Twitter, he says it feels like deja vu. Meanwhile, for those with crops in the ground, field agronomist Samantha Krofsky says they're finding lots of black cutworm in corn around the Dundee, Michigan area. This is a patch of chickweed missed by the spray boom. Well, the holiday weekend is over. What is the rest of the week looking like? I'll have your forecast coming up, but for now, let's check on some hometown temps.
Here's the secret to selling old equipment. Pete's Pick of the Week lets you easily view current market prices. Just text Pete6 to 31313 to get started.
When we come back, we'll be talking the acreage mix and how it could be changing even this late in the season. And later, Machinery Pete.
Stay tuned, folks. Coming up, we're going to talk some recent red-hot auction prices on small square balers.
And would you be willing to pack up everything you own and move it across the ocean to fulfill a lifelong ambition? When we head in the country, you'll meet a man willing to risk it all for his dairy dreams.
This is Machinery Pete, inviting you to check out my new website, machinerypete.com, offering farmers tens of thousands of used equipment listings to search. Let Machinery Pete help you find and value your next piece of used equipment.
Memorial Day marks the start of the summer driving season. Purdue University energy economist Wally Tyner says reduced demand and higher inventories will keep a lid on oil prices this summer. That after oil futures dropped nearly 5% last week. The U.S. Department of Energy projecting gasoline prices to average $2.39 per gallon this summer nationally. Tyner says it could be a bit lower in the Midwest. Farmers always start the planting season with a plan, but this year, for many parts of the country, those intentions have been derailed. Tyne Morgan joins us this morning from the Indy 500 with a look at acreage as we wrap up May.
Here now with Ted Seifert of Zaner Ag Hedge. Ted, it has been a tough planting season this year. Now I'm hearing some rumblings of farmers saying, hey, if by the end of the May, if I can't get my corn crop in, I'm switching to beans. Yep. So do you think that maybe this acreage number, we could end up seeing a flood of more soybean acres because we have had such a rough planting year?
I mean, you know, guys are really going to want to try to plant corn if they've got the inputs down already, which a lot of that went down before the big rains happened. So I think we're going to stick to corn as much as possible, but I think we're going to have to see some more bean acreage. I don't know if it's going to be an extra 2 million acres, something like that. I'm thinking you might see about a 500,000 acre swing or so. But overall, you know, the big blow that was dealt to the soybean market recently was the Brazilian president getting impeached because of some tapes, incriminating tapes that surfaced. Right. And that sharp drop in the real kind of took our hopes away that we were going to be competitive with our old crop exports through the end of August, really. There was a moment there right before that happened where we were looking at the price sheets for us and them, and it looked like we were going to keep up with our exports fairly well. We were very competitive on the global scale. So we'll see if that changes. We'll see what happens with the real going forward. To be honest with you, I kind of like the idea that the Brazilian producer is now getting more aggressive on selling soybeans. I'd like to get that crop moved rather than have this black cloud hanging over the market's head for the next marketing year. So longer term, you know, we'll see what happens production-wise. We got a long year to go here. But we're optimistic on demand, and with the USDA's 480 million bushel carryover, that's not nearly as big as what some people had been hoping for, or had been looking for. So maybe we do see prices hang in here and possibly some upside potential if we have a weather issue.
But it sounds like, Ted, we do have some bearish factors that could really weigh on this market. And so in your mind, do we need to be protecting this downside risk right now?
Yeah, I think so. We really try to protect the risk as much as possible. The good news is that we had a very good February average, right? And so you're just under 1020 there. So yes, you should be looking for bounces. You should be looking for opportunities for any sort of bounces during the growing season to do that, because if we do have a good crop here, and especially if the demand's not quite as strong as what the USDA is currently thinking, which I'm a little skeptical about, we could easily end up with a 600 plus million bushel carryover, and we could be talking prices in the $8 range, low $8 range possibly. So you do want to take this growing season. You want to take your opportunities to hedge downside risk. You can re-own those bushels with calls if you want to have upside potential, because it's always nice to have upside potential in soybeans, because they do tend to be explosive from time to time. But you need to get those cash sales made when you're profitable.
All right, Ted Seifert, thanks so much. Stay with us. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a moment.
For professional marketing advice specifically tailored to your needs, call Zaner Ag Hedge at 312-277-0113. Ag Day is powered by Ram Trucks, America's longest-lasting pickups.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Here is Cindy Clausen. Cindy, as we kind of wrap up May, we're starting to look at the next month of June. Does the jet stream tell us anything different?
Well, it's going to tell us that we have some cooler temperatures and some rain, at least for the eastern part of the country as we head into this week. Let's take a look at that jet stream. And you can see that we do have a trough right here over the Great Lakes, and that's going to shoot down some cool air, especially for the middle part of the week. We'll also see chances for some showers and storms as we head through, especially Tuesday and through about Wednesday or Thursday. But a big ridge in the western part of the country is going to mean some very warm temperatures out there. Let's put this into motion. You could see that trough slide slowly to the east, kind of flattens out a little bit. So we see those cooler temperatures, especially around the Great Lakes and into the northeast, and we stay warm out west. Now we will see a bit of a cutoff potentially in the southwest, but not really much of a change in temperatures. And even as we get through Friday, we're still seeing some slightly cooler temperatures in the northeastern United States. All right, and then we start to see some warming up as we get into the early part of next week. As far as what we can expect overall for this week, we're going to be looking at below normal temperatures, mainly for that trough for much of the eastern part of the country there. But we do expect to see maybe some stormy conditions that could keep things a little on the cool side, even down into parts of the southern plains. Perhaps a little bit on the warm side in Florida and in much of the northwestern United States. Now, as we take a look at what we're expecting for precipitation this week, a little bit on the wet side across much of the southern United States, but a little dry, especially in the western parts of the Great Lakes and all the way down over across the west coast of the United States. Now, over the next 30 days, a little cooler than normal for much of the right smack dab in the nation's midsection, right over the Corn Belt, while we keep it warmer on the coasts, the east coast, west coast, also along the Gulf Coast and into the southwestern United States. And precipitation-wise, we're looking at maybe not some good news, depending on if you've planted or not. Depend on if this is good news for you. But above normal precipitation in much of the eastern United States, fairly normal in the plain states, but it looks like it's going to be a little on the dry side in parts of the southwest and along the west coast. That's a look at your national forecast, and let's check on the weather where you live. Moab, Utah, mostly sunny and warm for you today with a high temperature of 86 degrees. Velva, North Dakota, mostly sunny with a high of 69 degrees. And Farmington, Tennessee, partly to mostly sunny with a high of 82.
Thanks, Cindy. There's encouraging news this morning for bees and beekeepers. The annual survey of bee colonies showing fewer bees died over the winter. The Bee Informed Partnership estimates colony losses at 21%. That's a nearly 6-point improvement from the 2015-16 winter season. Beekeepers also lose bee colonies during the summer months. Last year, it was about 18%. The report is based on a survey of about 5,000 beekeepers. Machinery Pete checks in next with a look at the hottest selling farm equipment of the month. And how far are you willing to go to live out your dreams? This man shares his story of desire and determination, and it landed him in Texas.
Visit farmjournalpro.com. Trusted analysis, professional insight. farmjournalpro.com.
Machinery Pete took the day off Monday like many folks, but he's here today with a look at the hottest selling equipment in May. Pete says lots of folks are making hay.
One of the hottest sectors of the used market I've seen in the month of May, well, small square balers. Now if you go to our machinerypete.com website, we've got almost 400 of them listed for sale by dealers all over the country. And in the month of May, that search traffic to these listings was up 19.4%. And I'm actually seeing this demand played out on the auction market with much stronger prices recently. Now let's take a common model, say a New Holland BC 5070. Now I've actually seen the 4 highest auction prices I've ever seen on this model all in the last 2 months. Now here's a picture of a 2012 model. This sold on a farm auction April 18th up in southwest Alberta, Canada by our friends at Ritchie Brothers. And it went for $17,717 US, and that's the highest price I've ever seen. And they actually had 2 of them on that sale that were 2012 models. Both brought the same money. They also had a 2011 model that went for $16,963. And here's a picture of a BC 5070 that sold on a farm auction in Central Ohio back on March 20th, went for $16,000. So again, those are the 4 highest auction prices I've ever seen on that BC 5070 model. Now folks, if you're looking for a baler, go to our website, machinerypete.com, and again, we've got about 400 of them listed for sale by dealers, but you can also click on the upcoming auction link, and we've got 99 balers listed for sale, including 18 small square balers, including one 5070 that's coming up this Saturday, June 3rd, on a consignment sale in Versailles, Missouri. And all this information is updated daily. Be sure to tell those auctioneers and dealers you saw it on Machinery Pete.
All right, thanks, Greg. When we come back, we'll meet a Scottish dreamer who relocated 4,600 miles away to live out his passion on the Southern Plains. In the Country is next.
In the Country, sponsored by Kubota. Discover the power behind the M6 series at Kubota.com or visit your local Kubota dealer today.
From the green hills of Scotland to the Texas plains, Colin Thompson is living his American dream, and he's helping dairymen along the way. Ed Wolf from the Texas Farm Bureau has a story.
An idea, a big risk, a move across the globe. Colin Thompson and his wife April moved from Scotland to Texas in 2006, a bold move that has since paid off.
I worked in the dairy industry in Scotland. We would come over here on vacation, and I quickly saw there was a lot of dairies, and we decided we wanted a change in lifestyle and decided to move to Texas and give it a go.
They left the largest city in Scotland for Lambkin, Texas, moving to the ranch her grandparents once owned in Comanche County, one of the historically rich dairy areas of the state, a perfect place for Colin to dream big.
I grew up in town, had nothing really to do with dairies, left school when I was 16. Worked for a Delaval dealer for 11 to 12 years. From there on, I grew to love the technology and the progress of the dairy industry and how we could help the farmers and the cows.
After getting to the Lone Star State, he worked for another dairy dealership for 7 years. Then 4 years ago, he and April decided to step out on their own. Thompson Dairy Services was born.
My main goal was just to create a high-quality service company. Not scared to get on out there and bring new equipment in, which we could see could help these farmers.
From supplies and installations to maintenance and repairs, Colin's team works to help dairies of all sizes. They serve about 40 dairies in an 80-mile radius. Wildcat Dairy in Gustine is one.
As immigrants ourselves from 23 years ago, we really could associate with Colin when his family moved here. And he did great service work, was out here quite a bit, and just developed a great relationship with the quality of the service that he did for us.
One of Colin's recent projects for David is cow cooling.
We're creating about a 7-mile-per-hour wind. We've individually baffled each pen section to create a downdraft of airflow to give great wind velocity around the cow's body so that we can get her core temperature down.
He works with dairymen in Central Texas to keep their barns as cool as possible. Using fans and misters, he helps reduce the temperature in the barns by 18 degrees. That helps keep the cows comfortable, which makes them produce milk more efficiently. Custom LED lights for agriculture are his latest venture, and he's looking to incorporate robots in the near future. The possibilities are endless.
I think one of the things of moving to America, for me, it opens your eyes to what's possible, and I love the support that you get in this country. I don't think there's anywhere else like it in the world.
Colin's living his dream while helping those who produce the nation's milk, and ultimately those who drink it. With the Texas Farm Bureau, Ed Wolf, Dublin.
And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in, started your day with us. For Cindy Clausen and all of us here at Agday, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.
Agday is powered by Ram Trucks, America's longest-lasting pickups.